We're live on a Rumble, YouTube, and X. You can join us and follow us on all of those platforms. Coming live to you first from the new Rumble studio. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, Avalanche, Solana, Link, Fetch, our favorites of this market. I'm going to do a broader market perspective every day. I've decided what I'm going to do also for the next week is just try to do quick morning coffee updates. That way you guys can find a more reliable, consistent version of TO every morning for coffee. So hopefully that it will be enjoyable for you all. If you can give me a thumbs up in the chat, leave some comments, let me know that everything is going smoothly. I think I've got almost all of the technical streaming difficulties out of the way. But as we're working kind of with the new Rumble Studio platform here, there has been one or two small things that I've had to address kind of on the fly. So if you can, let me know that that's all going smoothly. It should make things a lot easier for me. I'm just going to quickly click over here into Twitter and X to make sure we are streaming. Awesome, streaming there too. Great. So that's looks like both YouTube and X are working well. So all that leaves me to do for the rest of this now is just to jump in, and I see your guys' comments rolling in. Okay, perfect. So that should mean that everything's working, which is what we want. Yay, everything's working. Bitcoin, awesome. We are likely what is in the final stages of the SOS phase. Now, for those of you that are new to the channel, I know with Rumble we had some 100,000 views, which is huge. Maybe what I'll do is I'll use less technical jargon and I will try to explain each of these ideas simply. So we are big fans of the Wyckoff accumulation patterns and Wyckoff distribution and reaccumulation patterns. For Bitcoin, since January 2022 to all the way up to October 2023, we were in an accumulation range. Accumulation ranges are made up of many different points within the phase sequence of that event, but the ones that are most important to us are the ones that are taking place right now. Those are called the sign of strength, SOS for short, or LPS, last point of supply for short as well. LPS and SOS are our favorite parts of the market. That's when you get the most significant amount of upside with the least amount of time needed to be patient, and the least risk of downside as well, which is also an important factor. We would prefer to always only ever go up. It would make investing super easy, but you also have to be somewhat defensive and prepared for the downside. So this does largely help that. We are in what appears to be the kind of the second and final LPS stage before we see a new breakout. I think this will be the future primary support as well. This is actually stuff we have seen in the past. As an example, let's go all the way back here to 2021. So in 2021, what we saw Bitcoin do was effectively roll into the previous trading range. So the top of the trading range here is defined by the previous all-time high, bottom in the range. On the left-hand side, you have what's called a primary support. And again, as soon as we left the box, this actually became the primary support. So I suspect that's what's going to happen again this time, is that where we are now is the future bottom of Bitcoin's price. So today, in a new all-time high, will effectively be Bitcoin's next bottom. This is where I believe the PSY is going to exist, somewhere between $70,000 to $90,000, maybe as low as 60. There is room to believe, or there is room for a bit of a downside, but not much. And that's important. It's important to remember that there's not a whole lot of room for downside. So don't get too excited for Bitcoin to come back down to 12 grand. Like if you think Bitcoin's coming down to 12 grand still, you're just not paying attention, or I'm not sure. Doesn't really matter. Bitcoin's not coming back down to 12 grand. In fact, if it ever comes back down that low, we've got some serious problems in the rest of the world. So I'm not too concerned about that. But this SOS and LPS phases that we're in right now usually end up being the future primary support. So again, as we kind of just look back here in time, the final LPS stage for Bitcoin in the 2021 bull market ended up becoming, again, basically the bottom support. So the PSY became the support of the bottom of the test in the spring for the rest of this reaccumulation range. And that's not actually the only time this has happened. Again, Bitcoin's been pretty consistent with some of its data I'm not sure why that works out that way, but it does. Here, going back again, our primary support was all the way down here at around $1,300. We never came back down that low for Bitcoin. So we might not ever come back down that as low as we have now. We might not come back as low. In fact, for Bitcoin afterwards, the lowest we came was $3,200. So that's still, for the primary support and a few 200%. So where we are today might not even be the bottom of the next rally, of the next cycle low. So it could be higher. It could be $100,000. And that's kind of the speculation, is that the SOS and LPS phases do eventually become a PSY. Now, which one specifically, it's hard to say. There's probably not enough volume signature here for that to be the truth, but nonetheless, in the short term, what this means is we are about to enter some of the most exciting parts of the market. Bitcoin is probably going to run maybe upwards of $150,000, maybe higher. Really depends. Naval put out a really good tweet the other day. Said the narrative of this cycle is that this is the last cycle, and we've seen that narrative a few times before, and it's never really played out. The narrative often for many things is that this is the last version of this thing that we will ever see this way. The world is ending. It's 2012, but in the crypto markets, the Mayan calendar predicted Bitcoin or something like this. And it never really happens until all of a sudden it does, and we're all destroyed by an asteroid in a very short period of time. But until that moment is going to keep going. Again, we have very high targets of potentiality, upwards of $240,000 for Bitcoin for the 4.32 extension. Sorry, for the 4.23 extension. A little bit dyslexic this morning. But more conservatively, I think the 1618 is our first target, around $100,000. I think we'll get there very quickly. And I think the 2618 is probably the most likely for this extension. I think the volatility of Bitcoin is going to slowly be reduced over time. And then what you end up with is an asset who is more of a stable coin than the stable coins in the future. This is one of the kind of misnomers I think people have often made mistakes about, which is the idea that the stable coin is in fact stable. Although stablecoins at the moment are stable, the entire point of Bitcoin is understanding that the current denomination, or the currency denomination of US dollars, is being inflated consistently. It's by a bunch of criminals, apparently. So the easiest thing to do is to first off assume that you're always dealing with criminals. So what would a criminal banker do? What would a criminal government do? And then you end up getting the right answer. It's one of the weirdest things, technically speaking, is that you can go back, you can repeat this process and go, wait, so if my government was criminal, what would happen? And then if the thing that would happen if your government was criminal happens, then you should probably start to assume that you are actually right in your underlying thesis, and the government is in fact criminal, which is most likely true. So because of that, because we can assume that the government is criminal every time they do something, we end up with criminal-like ideas. What's going to happen to the dollar? They're going to continue to inflate. They're going to massively increase the M2 supply in the next short little run. And we're going to see Bitcoin absolutely fly. It's going to go much higher. Again, I think the conservative targets are somewhere between 130 and 160,000, and then around 240,000 for Bitcoin at like some crazy extreme. Now, on the smaller time frame here for Bitcoin too, one of the things we like to go over was checking in with our widening megaphone pattern. Again, we could see an LPS that brings us down to the $61,000 mark. In fact, and I've said this a few times, it would be nice, but not necessary, for us to see some type of reaccumulation range take place. I actually thought, if you go back and watch our previous videos, I thought that this was going to be the reaccumulation range. I thought we were going to maybe touch down to 0.7 here at around 38,000. We didn't, 36,000. You can check back on my videos there. We're a little bit wrong, only came to 38 instead of 36, and then instantly turned around. You can see the peak of the ETF sending off these market highs for Bitcoin at around 49, dropping down a few days after the ETF, and then just absolutely skyrocketing. Again, here we can kind of jump over and take a quick look at what's going on in the inflows and outflows, and it's been pretty consistent. Massive amount of IBIT inflows. which is very powerful, obviously. Reason being is you have hundreds of millions of dollars. Let's take a look at the 14th or the 15th of March, $5.75 billion of spot BTC ETFs. That's huge. 1.3 billion in GBTC, which is usually sell side, and 2.7 billion in IBITS buy side. Great data sheet here from the block. Spot BTF inflows and outflows. Let's expand this one. This is a bit of an easier way to see the negative sell side pressure. Negative sell side pressure of GBTC here at 276 million on the 14th and 586 million on the buy side for the spot BTC ETFs. So again, just incredibly significant amounts of capital coming in to Bitcoin in a very short period of time. This is a positive sign. And again, when this brings us back to the rest of our story, we look at where we are for Bitcoin. We've just exited the widening megaphone pattern. Retail's not really here yet. They're just starting to show up. I'm just starting to get messages from people that have been following me for a few years who haven't messaged me at all in the last 3 years going, oh my God, what should I do? Should I buy? Should I sell? I know you just always say keep buying and holding, and what should I do? Retail is arriving here again. They're here starting to show up now for the first time, but retail is not here yet. They're just starting to trickle in the door, which means distribution is not far off from this cycle. So we are well off and into our way and going to see new all-time highs for Bitcoin in a very short period of time. Ethereum also completing what appears to be its next LPS structure before we break into new all-time highs. A beautiful accumulation pattern here for Ethereum. If you've been following along the bear den, you'll know primary support, selling climax, automatic rally, secondary test, up thrust, test, spring, low volume spring, and an explosion in price. Ethereum is going to be into new all-time highs sooner than later. I actually thought Bitcoin would be a little bit behind Ethereum, but it's clear that the control of Bitcoin as an asset via the ETFs is really astounding. It is such a powerful position for Bitcoin to be in, is to have all of that global market liquidity, finding an easy way to get in. Now, there is lots of speculation around Ethereum finding its way to an ETF maybe somewhere in the summer. It's not totally clear to me yet that is going to be the case, but we're probably on our way there soon. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. But what it looks like is we're going to see new all-time highs for everything very shortly. So taking a look at the rest of our plays here, a little bit of a messy chart. So I apologize for that at the moment. Maybe we'll hide the VPVR. If you've been following along in Avalanche or Solana, you've done very well. Both of these up 5 to 10x almost. Fetch is up 10x at the moment, but beautiful reaccumulation pattern taking place. The test jump across the creek tests, all noted by the volume signature here, and a move into a breakout in our SOS phases. As I move in a little bit closer, for those of you that are in the private bear den, you will have noted this. We sent some awesome updates just recently. So for instance, here is Solana on that private update. And as you can see, Avalanche on that private update at $50. We're up almost 30% since then. And just a continuation of these to go again. Here is Avalanche right before we broke out, being like, last chance to dance, fill your bags, here we go. Same with Solana, last chance to dance, fill your bags, here we go. These are super powerful charts because as you can see what's happened with Solana, the last chart we posted in the bear den was at 164, and as of yesterday, this kind of breakout moment we shared too, Avalanche was at $59, just jumping across the creek. And giving us a further data and confidence about this play, where I've got my first target set at between 80 and 100. We could go higher, but my first targets are set at around 80, somewhere between 76, 80, and 100 and $120. And I think we'll be there this week. We could see a type of back test here of the creek. Again, if we turn our VPVR on here, VPVR. Which is down around $54. We could see a retest of $54 for Avalanche. It's not out of the cards yet. And as we take a look at Solana here, first off, I've got some extra pieces on there that you don't normally see, which is our Bollinger Bands. But we're going to turn that off for the moment. Again, just a nerd arts chart orgasm. That's I think that's correct. This is how you can make a lot of money very easily if you know where you are in the market and how to time things. Now, investing is the best way to go. Find assets you like that have long-term fundamentals that you believe in and invest in those every month. This is a very, very surefire way to go, hey, we just jumped across the creek. We're testing that creek. We're going to go into SOS phase. So you can ignore this kind of boring first how many days of the market accumulation, 60 days of accumulation for Solana before the jump across the creek. But as soon as the jump across the creek took place, retest of the creek, it was less than 22 days before we're over 100% growth in Solana. SOS still in progress. LPS already taken place, and looking for kind of our final LPS and SOS phases that probably lead us into distribution here. Now, it could go into new all-time highs. Going back out to the 2-day chart here with Solana, we're just straight up. And this is, again, so important to understand. Long-term accumulation on the bottom of the box here for Solana. And then in a very short period of time, as soon as you jumped across the creek, you're up almost 10x in less than 170 days. So understanding the Wyckoff methodology is extremely important. It's so valuable and so profitable, and it saves you a lot of time and energy because you can be very confident about where you are in the market without having to do a whole lot. And that's super valuable. It's very, very, very valuable to know where you are in the market. I wanted to quickly take a look at Link. It's been a bit of a laggard in its last parts of its phase right now. Remember, if we go back here, we saw our first reaccumulation outside of the box here, noted when we started screaming go long and stay long for months, basically back in November. So signal reached, first target says go long and stay long forever. Well, for the rest of the bull market, we are in what appears to be the backup phase for Link. So I think Link is going to run here probably pretty quickly. It's going to shoot up. Let's go to the 2-day. It'll give us a bit of a clearer view here. We're going to shoot up probably around $36 for Link here in almost no time. We're going to probably finish the final few checks here, and we're going to be on our way to $36 to $40 probably in the next month. That would be a pretty clear guess from what I can see. So I'm going to actually just give me a second here. I want to make sure everything is rolling smoothly because I'm still new to this. I just want to make sure all the streams are moving smoothly. Awesome. YouTube says it's going smoothly. Twitter still going. Twitter also still rolling along smoothly. Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure because some of this stuff is kind of new. Oh, there we go. Okay. And also working on Rumble. Perfect. Thanks for bearing with me there for a second while I did that. Okay, so back to Chainlink. One of the things I wanted to point out here is Chainlink had a really kind of obtuse. I don't think that, yeah, I'm using that word correctly for my intention right now. This is a very obscure, that's not a better way to say it. This is a very obscure trading range, not very well defined as we had seen with some of our other trading ranges. Lots of ups and downs, retesting the bottom of the trading range. I think we're seeing that. I think first off, we just saw that again for its previous accumulation range. This was super awkward. This was a very awkward accumulation range. I think that's why the backup phase is also feeling kind of awkward today. I think that Link is basically the very last stages of its backup phase before it goes ballistic and probably does another 100% from here. And then again, we're much closer to the end of the bear market than we were when we very first started back here in October. So the bull market is just getting started. We're just about to break up into the kind of madness of retail arriving and all the fun that comes along with that too. So it'll be really, really interesting to keep an eye on. I also wanted to take a quick look at Joe too. This is another, again, just such an important reason to understand where you are in your accumulation ranges. Joe here, just this last week, had a 100% move in 10 days. Okay, so if you're following along, you're charting. I actually think magic is about to do something very similar. Notice the chart, the up, the down, the up, the down. Actually, this does kind of look like two accumulation patterns. Won't get too deep into it, but Joe's done really well alongside the ripping and roaring of Avalanche's price movement. There was a few other we saw across the board, but if you've noticed, actually, let's go to CoinGecko for this next little bit, and it'll help kind of suss out the idea that I want to share. Here we go to CoinGecko, our favorite market cap trender here. Most everything on the 24 hours is still largely in the red. It's actually more noticeable on my on this over here. We'll just do this for a second. As you can see, almost across the board, 5 to 10% negative, but a few strong leaders out there. Avalanche and Joe deeply correlated to one another because of the price of Avalanche. But as you can see, Mana, XRP, Myria, everything down around 7 to 10%. And then the few stronger leaders out there, like Aptos, up 8%. And if we go back, take a look, what do you find here? Beautiful. Well, this is not as sexy, but this is a really long-term accumulation pattern that's taking place. You just finished the bottom accumulation, headed to the top of the trading range here. You will see Aptos back at around $20. No time flat. But yeah, nice bottom of the marker trading range taking place here, followed by its SOS and backup phase. SOS, backup, and now it's SOS and LPS phase here. You could see volatility that brings you really all the way down to the bottom of the shelf at $10 here. So if you're not already in position, I wouldn't enter. But again, it just shows the strength of the Wyckoff methodology if you know where you are in the markets. Extraordinarily powerful and very, very easy to tell once you kind of get it going. S&P 500, I wanted to take a look at today. I keep expecting to see a loss of strength here, and on the 6 hour it's a bit more noticeable. We do have a lot of divergence on the RSI heading down as the price heads up. I'm still looking for a retest of the $480 area as part of our SOS and backup phases. So I've been anticipating something that has not happened yet, and it might not happen because we're in a bull market and they're likely just going to continue to print. But we were looking for a return back to the middle of the VPR shelf here around 487. I suspect that if that does happen, we'll have a correlative Bitcoin response to the downside, but there's not a whole lot of room for downside here. The other thing is important to note, we are in a very thin rising channel. I know it's kind of a messy page. I've got a lot of drawings going on. Usually try to keep it simpler, but for now, if we start to break down here and break below this channel, we're going to 480. Bitcoin might move along again to the downside for that. For Bitcoin, it would be nice to again form that trading range here within this top of the market trading band that we've got drawn out here in red, which is between 61 and 72,000 effectively. So there's still a little bit of room for downside, especially alongside the S&P 500's potential fall here, but not much. A lot of people that are bearish at the moment will jump up and scream, look, see, we were right. Bitcoin at 70 grand, it's turning around. Gareth Soloway will be like, look, everybody, I was right. My shorts since $30,000 are in profit. I don't even know how that bro confidently says the things he does. Being a YouTuber is a wild group of people that I'm a part of. That's the easy way to say it, I guess. If you're following us on YouTube right now, give us a thumbs up. If you're on X, leave us a comment. If you're on Rumble, subscribe to the channel, please. We appreciate the support. So yeah, not a whole lot of room for downside, especially now the S&P 500. Again, what is that? That's a jump of 2% for the S&P 500. That's huge in TradFi terms. That's like hundreds of billions of dollars, no problem, in and out of the markets. Again, based off what we're seeing here, when we go to the weekly for the S&P 500, it's pretty clear to me we were in a long-term accumulation. We had our SOS backup, first SOS and LPS, second SOS and LPS, and we are in the final, maybe death throw stages of the bull market. Now, what's interesting here is that we have to remember that the dollar has been destroyed to infinity. They've printed so much of it. People are losing trust. Why would you even want the US dollar? The US government is a scam. They keep giving money to Ukraine. You can come up with 1,000 reasons why not to trust the USA. Aside from the fact that their government appears to be very criminal, the likelihood that the elections are fraudulent and have been maybe since JFK, and you don't live in a real democracy, you live in a banana republic. This market is going to go onwards and upwards. We're going to scream into new all-time highs for the S&P 500 day in, day out, probably for the next year or two as they move us into and out past this next election cycle. But no, it is all a fraud. It is not that the asset prices are going up. It is that the dollar is being devalued so consistently. Yeah, that it looks like asset prices are going up. And that's what they want. That's what they want you to think. They want you to believe that your house is worth more today because that looks good on your balance sheet. And for them, they think to themselves, wow, great. This is awesome. You're doing great, right? The economy is great. Look how great the economy is. Your house is worth more. And that should make you happy, right? Even though you can't buy as much with the money that you just previously had. Holding onto dollars, unless you need to spend those dollars within the coming months, is basically always a lose situation. The currency is like a hot potato. It is something you do not want to hold on to very long because you're going to get by holding that hot potato. So something important to keep in mind there. Let's take a look at the dollar. Again, my general perspective here is that the dollar is going to actually stay somewhat strong, but is in a current breakdown moment. So I suspect this long-term channel we've been in for the dollar, we come back down to test maybe 97 as they start to lower rates, but other people will start to run from their failing currencies, from the Argentino peso to the Venezuelan bolivar to the Turkish lira. Currencies around the world are starting to fail, and eventually the US dollar will fail too. But until that moment, all of those other currencies and countries will likely start to adopt the US dollar, thinking that, hey, look, the dollar is safe. It's a great way to store money. But governments trusting governments is like shit eating shit. It's just not going to go anywhere positive. I promise you that. And then eventually you will see a breakdown and a total failure of the dollar and all currencies. I don't know how long it's going to take. It could take a decade or two, but the bull case for Bitcoin to $10 million that I made in 2017 when my hair was long, my mustache was overgrown, and I was a half naked hippie, paying for things from search engine optimization instead of Bitcoin. $6 million sounded a little insane, but as we get closer and closer to that idea, and the governments are clearly trying to basically kill you to help better their balance sheet, it appears like we will be right. It just takes time. It takes a bit more time than we thought, a lot more time than we thought. But hey, if you got a nice watch to look at, checking the time doesn't seem to be that bad. Just gotta be patient, and we'll eventually roll around. So, I think that is that it for our live stream on YouTube today before we jump off on Rumble and start looking at a bunch of stuff that would normally get us in trouble? I'm not totally sure. Let's actually take a few more minutes and just take a look at the general market here. I like CoinGecko. Let's see if they've got any fun data for us here. Let's go. Okay, top 7-day earners. Jupiter up at the top at $1.48. Solana, dog with hat, still screaming along. Actually, I wanted to talk about this for a second. I wanted to talk about meme coins. I wanted to talk about Dogecoin as well. A few years ago, I told our followers, look, there's nothing wrong with having $1,000 in Dogecoin, because if Dogecoin all of a sudden does 100x, you won't really care that it's garbage because you'll have $100,000 from your $1,000 investment. One of the things I like to repeat for people as well is the idea of heads I win, tails I can only lose a little. So if you only can lose $1,000 on your Dogecoin investment, there's no reason you might not want to make that kind of long shot gamble. The other thing I pointed out is that currency in itself is mimetic. So you ask yourself, what's mimetic to you? I've never heard that word. That's actually where memes come from. Mimetic. Memetic is a breakdown of that word. So memetics is a theory of evolution of culture based on Darwinian principles, with the meme as the unit of culture. The term meme was coined by biologist Richard Dawkins in 1976 in his book The Selfish Gene to illustrate the principle that he called universal Darwinism. So uh, meme coins are universal Darwinism. They will all go to zero, just like every currency. Dogecoin, it's going to go to zero eventually. But in the meantime, people could buy a lot of it. And because it's a currency, it might always have some type of intrinsic value, that of, say, something that a collector would want. Because there are paper currencies that are no longer used, that are considered rare, that are worth more than the face value of that currency because there's a collector who would like to have it in their stash. Now, I don't really think owning Dogecoin or Dog with Hat is a smart idea, but putting small amounts of money that you might lose in there to make a significant amount of return is a smart idea. So if you want to put your life savings into Dogecoin, bad idea. If you want to put basically casino or gamble money in memes, that's a great idea because memes have been around and will be around forever. I think the idea of memetics, which is how culture, again, passes on some of its data to one another's, is an extraordinary process and should not be undervalued because currency today, as we know it, is a meme. The US dollar, it's a fucking meme. Okay. Canadian dollar is definitely a meme. There's no value behind that paper trash other than Justin Trudeau's face and the lack of government accountability. So if we know that all currencies are memes, why would buying a meme coin currency not be a good idea? Well, the truth is it could be a good idea as long as you limit your risk to the downside, because like all currencies, given a long enough time span, they will go to zero. Now, Bitcoin, I wanted to make this was actually kind of a fun one. I wanted to go over this too. Email from Satoshi Nakamoto, 11/06/2009. It says, I'm uncomfortable with explicitly saying or considering Bitcoin an investment. That's a dangerous thing to say, and you should delete that bullet point. It's okay if they come to that conclusion on their own, but we can't pitch it as it is. A few details, section 2.3, the reason the reason being is, now Whale Wire here says, oh, Satoshi explicitly leaked an email as dangerous to consider Bitcoin as an investment, mostly because they didn't want Bitcoin to be considered a security, especially at that time when it was just starting. You don't want to get dinged for something. Also why Satoshi, I'm sure, decided to stay and remain anonymous. But this part I always found kind of ridiculous, and a lot of the BSV and Roger Ver group said this is, oh, it was described as a digital payment method. However, since that narrative went bust over years ago. Now, this is the problem that I think a lot of people don't understand, is a lot of people think a digital payment method is to buy coffee. But if you have a bank account and you have other bank accounts and you need to transfer money just between your two fucking bank accounts, moving $50,000 from one country to another country is fucking stupid. It's one of the hardest things you can do. It takes so much effort and energy, and you got a proof of funds this, and I want to buy a vehicle and I got to go back and proof of funds the vehicle from the proof of funds I sent to the fucking bank account. It is probably the least exciting way to move money, and you end up wasting sometimes days waiting for it's a Saturday and the bank's not open past 5 p.m. So I got to wait for a wire transfer to Bitcoin is still 100 fucking times better than a wire transfer. And that is a means of digital payment. That's what the fucking Swift transfer is. I always blew my mind that people equated Bitcoin as you need to spend it on a coffee for it to have been the digital cash that it needed to be. The most important part to me isn't that I could buy a coffee with it, although you can buy coffee. You can buy almost everything in our local Costa Rican area here with Bitcoin or a Satoshi. That is probably the better way to say it, because there are other means that have reduced the payment, the cost of transactions, so that it's possible. But the most important part to me is I was someone who was banking with hundreds of thousands of dollars in early 2012, 13 was, how do I fucking move money around? Like real money. How do I make a digital transfer from one of my bank accounts to another? And as soon as Bitcoin solved that, I was like, wow, this is amazing. This saves me so much time. Every time I get a product that I like it because it saves me time or it brings me more security. It's usually adding benefits to my life. So I always thought this was silly that the Bitcoin people are like, oh yeah, but Satoshi never said that it was meant to be a store of value. This is what he says. It says, the narrative went bust years ago after dozens of scalability issues, high fees, slow transaction times, and maxis have essentially just rebranded it into a store of value, inflation hedge, and safe haven investment. No, that's what it became when it became a good way to transfer value around the world. That's not just buying coffee. It's even transferring value to yourself. And it always confused me. It says none of that was ever mentioned in the white paper. Who cares? A white paper is supposed to be a living document that grows and evolves over the company's time. But as soon as Satoshi logged off, that white paper bullshit ended that day. It's almost like people don't know what a white paper is, yet are claiming to say that the white paper is like the testament that Moses brought down, evangelizing Satoshi, instead of understanding that all these things will evolve over time if it's going to do what it's meant to do. And it being able to transfer money to me around the world in an instant, and I don't have to use a bank, will always be worth more than it is to just buy a fucking coffee or to pay for my steaks, because that already is set up. The part that they're disrupting is the global banking system, and that's what you need to disrupt first, not just the means of payment. So I always thought that was a little abstract here. Whale wire here sounding like a total boosh doof, but somehow 347 people like that, because apparently there's a lot of ridiculously stupid people on this planet. If you're not one of those ridiculously stupid people, remember to give this thumbs up. Give a thumbs up. If you're here at all, you're probably not a ridiculously stupid person, although sometimes doing stupid things is the right way to go. So do some stupid things, but just make sure you don't lose it all along the way. If there is a power outage for a long period of time, how are you going to get your Bitcoin? Cash is king. I disagree with that. It's really easy. If we lose our power, wouldn't be too worried about cash neither, motherfucker. Ain't nobody going to be accepting that. Thinking if they can't communicate with their government or their bank either, they're going to use something else. They're going to quickly go back to barter and trade. And if you lose electricity for a long period of time, bro, you're fucked. You're so fucked. If you lose electricity for a long, I'm swearing so much, like I should probably end my YouTube stream here. But if you run out of electricity for a long period of time, cash is not worth anything either. Okay. It's usually around the 72-hour mark of no electricity where everything starts to go into total disarray and chaos. The human species, as we have it right now, without 72 hours of power on the planet, we would start to lose mass numbers of the population in a very short period of time after that. So it's good to keep in mind that you can't use these kind of simple blanket ideas like, oh, well, if there's no electricity, what Bitcoin going to do? Bitcoin still work, bro. As long as electricity somewhere in the world, it's still working. Whether you have access to it at that moment or not, I'm sure there's ways around it still too. But more importantly, to think, if you lose electricity for a long period of time, and cash isn't going to work either. No one's going to be like, oh, great, I just all of a sudden will accept the government thing, even though I can't hear or see the government at all in my life anymore. The police stations would stop working. None of their shit would work. We'd be so screwed. Although I guess all the diesel trucks would still work. So make sure you own a diesel truck in case the world fucking goes to shit. What else did I want to go over today? Oh yeah. FOMC meeting is coming up here soon. Where was the data? Yeah, so there's some fun stuff here. A lot of futures have been flushed out. The exchange interest, open interest rate has now again kind of starting to level and flatten out again, but still very high. I think I saw upwards of 20% on USDT on some of these exchanges this morning. Classic timing for pre-having a retrace. Again, this looks really, really similar to what we would normally see around the top of the box. Anyways, nothing unusual is taking place for Bitcoin. We're gonna be heading to new all-time highs soon, so don't miss out on that race upwards. There's a few other things I wanted to look at. Is it on this one? Yes. These people are not as good at charting as me, so we'll skip over that. Was there anything else? Yeah, there's not really anything else. I mean, if you guys want, what we can do from now on, make sure you follow me on Twitter. I'm gonna share what articles you want me to look at. Let's say like on this one here, say if you go in, just leave a comment. You're like, oh, Tio, I found this amazing article about something you want me to look at. Do that. And then I will take a look at it in our next live streams. That way we give a little bit more interactive process for the family. We're moving on into the greed phase, but not high up enough yet. I suspect we see a little bit of fear here in this next little bit. Maybe a drop as low as 60. I still am expecting more, just a slight bit more downside for the LPS of this particular movement, and then we're off to the races, onwards and upwards for quite some time. So the pi cycle top indicator also always has some fun. Wow, the pi cycle top indicator actually says we are at the top right now and above it. So we have broken out of it in the past, obviously, and then continued upwards, but we're just peaked out, touched it, and then turned back around. Although this is on log scale, does it look any different on linear? Yeah, a bit more data there. As you can see in the previous market cycle of 2021, as soon as we broke out of the pi cycle top, we and continued to run, we stayed above and out there for a while. I think that's probably upwards of 150K. I think that that's pretty consistent. With all the data we've been following, that we get upwards of 160K basically for Bitcoin over the next little while. So lots of room to grow here. Let's see. Our friends that look over into Bitcoin have done some great work. Let's take a look here. Oh, this is another fun one. We are the Bitcoin Cycle Master. This is kind of a fun one. We are not at the top yet, but we're getting pretty damn close. Here today, the top would be overvalued at $129,000. Cycle low 20, undervalued 30, fair market value at 50. We're at aggressively valued at around 80, and then overvalued at 130. So also $130,000 mark on this one. This one will be actually a fun one to keep over. So I'll make sure I bookmark this one with our friends that look into Bitcoin so we can share this one in the future. I don't know what they've done here exactly, but I do like it. Let's take a little read. A combination of on-chain metrics, including coin value, days destroyed, and terminal price, they're able to identify where Bitcoin price is valued relative within its cycles. Historically, those cycles have been approximately every 4 years and correlate strongly with Bitcoin halving events. There's no guarantee that they will continue to be the case in the future, and the metrics of that make up the Bitcoin Cycle Master actually track economic behavior. So obviously everything's to the wind here, but that would put fair value at Bitcoin at around 130,000. So it'll be interesting to see where that takes us to. Let's see here. Awesome. Everyone, thank you for the rant. All the comments are coming in. I appreciate that. Everything seems to be going smoothly. Awesome. 130 live viewers on YouTube. If you guys can, give us a thumbs up, give us the comments, share this video on your silly Facebook that no one looks at because Facebook is outdated and only the spot where we talk to our parents. Share it everywhere you can, because the more you share this video, the more YouTube will share it and the more Rumble will share it as well, which means we get better metrics and more people that probably deserve to see this data actually get to see it. Hari Hokanen drops a pretty interesting comment here. He says, Fabergé eggs went for a loaf of bread during the siege of Leningrad, and jewelry and gold watches too. Just saying. Yeah, loaves of bread become a very important economic price unit when things start to hit the fan. So you want to keep an eye on that. If you lose electricity for a long time, a loaf of bread would be worth a lot. So something to keep in mind there. I don't think I'm going to look at anything that's going to get us kicked off YouTube today. Awesome. Twitter's still working too. Groovy. Again, just shout out to Rumble for dropping us this live stream studio. It's making things a lot easier to go live from multiple platforms. Let's go back here. Yeah, so $130,000 Bitcoin top, maybe upwards of 250. We're not there yet. We're going to scream there real fast. So make sure you're in position. Let's see, is there anything fun and trending we wanted to look at? The Bitcoin standard. Yeah, we agree with that. Long time Bitcoin is our North Star and guiding light. Bill Gates. That's a surefire way to get kicked off YouTube. Talk about Bill Gates. Awesome. Well, that's about an hour. I think where can I see how long I've been live streaming? 44 minutes. Okay, awesome. Well, this is another live stream with morning rants and coffee with Tio. So I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. Yes. Just a quick reminder that your government is a bunch of criminals. And paying taxes is probably criminal. Because now you're supporting, through your complicit behavior, criminals. So I mean, that's probably illegal for me to tell people not to pay taxes. Pay your taxes, everyone, but it's criminal. It's criminal that they ask you to pay it. Can I see? Hold on a second. I don't do too many live streams on Twitter here. I want to see how that's going. 199 views. Awesome. Okay, cool. So it's just rolling along quite nicely over there. Yes, morning coffee and rants with Tio. We're gonna do them almost every day this week, just to see how our Rumble viewership grows and if it makes any difference with our YouTube viewership as well. I know that YouTube prefers the long stream videos. D Hands of God says, thoughts on getting into a long with leverage right now? Don't. Yeah, the surefire way to lose money. The best way, let's actually use Solana as an example for a storyline of when to go long here with leverage. Although I don't think you should. Were a few points when it could take place. Number one, the first one that we saw here was actually the test after the spring. So major selling climax in spring, followed by secondary tests. This is usually the best spot to enter, somewhere back here. But again, notice a 40% spread to the downside. That means if you started building your 3x position here and didn't add to it, you would have been liquidated. So usually we want to find a place where we're not going to lose all of our capital. So even at 3x, if it goes down 30%, you've lost all your money. So you have to keep generally building a position. Let's say you bought at the very top here because you suck. You don't know what you're doing. Well, we all make mistakes. I suck. I bought the top many times before. It comes down. You have to keep adding to your position to make sure that you don't get liquidated. So if you're adding the majority of your position down here, you start, I'm going to buy like 2 Solana, 5 Solana, 10 Solana, 100 Solana, 500 Solana. You build your position in the opposition. Most people don't do it that way. They go, oh my God, I'm going to get everything in my trade right now. You usually want to build smaller and then increase as the price goes down. It's the best way to do it. And then you wait for trading ranges, which there have been a few of. So there's obviously the one we were in right now, where the best range is anything below the middle of the box. So that was below the point of control is even the best. So anything below $97 with at max a 20% spread to the downside, this is the spot to be building the position. The jump across the creek was like, you better have all of your positions set up here because we're about to go for a run. The same thing happened and is currently happening with Avalanche as well. Avalanche is up at $64 already. Again, here building a position at 3x, anything below the point of control, which is known as our creek here, max position downsize is 25%. But you better been all in your position here, this jump across the creek and these retests. Although some really deep retests here for Avalanche, this is why you don't want to use leverage long, because even though you might have a great position, it was 25% to the downside. So if you were in 5x, you're gone. 10x, you're gone. 3x was the only position that really would have allowed you to navigate this without being liquidated. So generally, it's not smart to jump in with leverage this late into the game unless you already have a thorough position built. Anyone who's inviting you to trade leverage or sign up for my affiliate links to trade leverage, know that they make most of their money not off being a good trader, but off you losing money. Yeah, so the majority of the people that do that, the reason why they have capital to be like, oh, I made $1 million from a trade is because they have 1,000 other people on their referral affiliate list that just lost a bunch of money trying to trade their YouTube videos. So don't do that. Don't trade with leverage unless you know exactly where you are in the market. There are ways to know exactly where you are in the market. The Wyckoff trading method is one of the great ways to do that. That's why we do all this work. That's why we share such deep, intimate knowledge around what the Wyckoff trading method is. It's because it's the fastest way to grow your portfolio, and it's the easiest way to be confident about a long-term trade. And again, just as an example with Sol, we were in the SOS and backup phase, and we had this huge liquidity sweep of 26%. So let's say you're like, yes, we're in the backup phase. I want to start building my 3x position here. You could have at least handled the downside. But if you're in a 5x, 10x, you're totally liquidated, unless you're in a cross position, which I usually don't suggest anyone do. So in general, don't trade leverage unless you're hyper confident you know where you are in the market. Remembering that the majority and the sickness of the average investor comes from over trading, lack of education, and the inability to surround oneself with people who are doing the same thing as you. So the cure to that, we have over in our private group by going to arcanebear.com/private. Join our private group. It's a no risk money back guarantee. That means if you sign up for a month and in that month you don't like it, we just give you your money back, no questions back. Even if you're like, oh, I got a ton of value, I just don't want to pay you anymore, we cancel your membership and we give you a refund all the way up through that 30 days. So it's basically like a no risk trial, because you get a month for free technically if you don't like it. We very rarely have that happen. Most people get a ton of value out of it, especially considering if we were over here and less than a month later you're up 100% on any decent trade. You made way more. I think as the market cycle goes up, we're going to force people to pay for 5-year memberships up front. That way they don't get drawn out and miss out on the best part of the market. Those of you that have done the best are those of you that stuck through the bear market, paid for the membership during when the times were low. Surround yourself with community members that were making good investments. But now retail, a lot of you are going to want to sign up for the private membership now, but you won't stick around 2 years from now when it's the most exciting time to be here, when there's the least excited people about the market around. And that's what you need the community for. So give it a shot, sign up. You'll have a lot of fun. Oh, I think my camera, did my camera freeze or did? Oh yeah, look at my camera. One sec, Chainlink froze. Maybe it overheated. I don't know. We've plugged it back. Oh, there we go. We've plugged it back in. So go to arcanebear.com/private. Give yourself the benefit of the doubt and sign up. And again, remember, if you're not happy, we just give everyone a refund. You won't regret it. So would you be able to cover SHIB? Does it fall into the jump across the creek? And right now, SOS, you can also cover volume drying up, concept supply drying up, basically volume and Wyckoff. For those of you that don't know, Wyckoff's methodology is trading ranges and volume and supply signatures. So the most important part here is actually the volume and supply signature. So let's go back to our view of Avalanche. So following these nice, this is a reaccumulation pattern, not an accumulation pattern. Many of the things still apply. Lots of selling pressure, rising selling pressure, rising and increased buying. You can see it here. I've changed the color of the green. Increased buying, limited selling, big chunks of supply come into the market as the final tests and jump across the creek, which we see often. Exact same thing happened with Solana. We had a creek test that came from the top of the SOS all the way to the bottom of the creek, pretty much in a single wick. We've seen that multiple times now. So this is actually forever written into my strategy as have abstract buys way down here by your creek buys. Creek buys, ladies and gentlemen, if you buy a creek, you usually win the game very quickly. It's probably the best spot to enter. After the spring, after the test, the creek test itself usually has a really, really strong, sharp supply test into the creek. So, and then now, as you can see, we've started to increase and actually are still increasing the buy side. So the supply and demand signatures are the most important. Now, often if you see someone charting and they I saw Crypto Capo do this, it was so ridiculous. He's like, oh, look, it's a Wyckoff distribution method, but there's no volume or supply signatures whatsoever. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. So clearly you don't want to trust Crypto Capo. Actually, let's go back to this, because this was such a silly, I even offered to give him education on what it is, the things he's doing. His update is things are looking bullish. Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, Crypto Capo is finally bullish. The bull market has started. Retail is here. Oh, Crypto Capo is going to start telling all the retail to buy our bag. New highs very soon. That's ridiculous. Crypto Capo is just a meme into himself now. I can't believe it. Let's go back to this one. This is what I want to point out. Here is a chart of someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. And you'd think, wow, but Tio, he's got this beautiful Wyckoff distribution schematic that's drawn up almost identically to the thing that we see on the left. Well, first off, this thing he made up here doesn't exist. I actually thought that this was going to be distribution at the major sign of weakness for a second, because I thought we were going to go down to 36,000. I thought we were going to hit 36, maybe 34,000, jump back up, form a new smaller trading range, and then continue on. Here, we broke up instantly, right? So there was a time at the very bottom here, like at this major sign of weakness he was talking about, this moment, where I would actually have maybe agreed here that we were potentially about to witness distribution, because this was an up thrust followed by distribution. It actually looked that way until here, until like 2 days later. I sent out basically a retractment email. I was like, look, I was wrong. The market turned around instantly. We're going higher at 38,000. So for those of you that are in the private group, you'll have gotten that email and remember, look, I made a mistake. Shit, we're not going lower. We're going a lot higher. But to think that we were in an upthrust after distribution on the second line here is just silly. This was a spring. But more importantly, ignore the trading ranges. This bro has literally zero information on what the volume and supply signatures are doing, which is like 95% of the Wyckoff schematic. It's not just the horizontal trading range, it's what is the volume and supply signature doing. So the fact that Capo had none of this drawn up, I even messaged him at one point here. I was like, bro, you need some help? You want some education on how to actually do this? He never responded. Right, this is what he said. Someone was like, what if it's reaccumulation? Which it was. And he says, people fight the trend all day long. Just go with the trend. The trend is your friend. Stoic trader, you were correct here. I agree with you. But then Capo came and says, it's not about the schematic. It's also about the context and indicators, clear distribution. And I replied back, blah, you have no idea how this works. And it was just clue. It's true. He had no idea how this stuff works. It's obvious by what he did wrong here, which is there's no volume. So he's like, other indicators and stuff. Like, I don't know how the fuck these people get so popular. 823,000 followers on Twitter, yet I can't manage to break 50,000 on YouTube after 10 years of being right almost. This motherfucker, no idea. I must be doing something wrong. Maybe if I'm wrong more often, I'll get more popular. It seems to be the more wrong you are, the more popular you get. I've noticed some of the people who are wrong the most are the most popular. It makes no sense to me. Maybe it's just about being wrong about the wrong things too. Be like, oh, XRP to $5. Let's type that in and see how well that tweet does. If that tweet does better than my other tweets, we will know for sure that you have to make scammy, totally wrong out of the market assessments. Here we go. XRP to $5. Let's go. If this becomes the most popular tweet, we'll have now defined the idea that the majority of the world's population. You need to be saying more stupid things, Tio. Tio should be doing more dumb shit on Twitter to become popular. That's what it is. I should like here a dog whiff hat, XRP. What else? Cock in you. I'm just gonna focus on all the things on the left hand side of the bell curve distribution from now on to grow my engagement here on Twitter. Thanks for the insight there, Mr. Capo. I think I learned a lot today. Okay, was there anything else I wanted to rant on? Not particularly, I guess. Other than I thought Crypto Capo was at the fact that Capo's coming out bullish now is fucking hilarious. And look, he's only 20% exposed to the market. Ladies and gentlemen, after a 10x in multiple portions of the market, Capo is now 20% exposed to the bull market. This bro is amazing. On March 17th, what is it? I'm sorry, I got to read through this here. We're just on live stream ranting anyway, so it probably doesn't really matter. I've already finished the thread that adds more solid reasons to support the likelihood of a major pullback in the coming weeks to months. However, I'm going to wait a bit before posting it, and at least do with some clear bearish. There are going to be no fucking bearish sentiments. Capo, until this market cycle is over, you need a friend. This bro needs some friends who can like help him. How did he? I would love to know the story arc of Crypto Capo, of where these hundreds of thousands and 1.8 thousand likes. How do you get 800,000 views on something? and just always be wrong for the last year. So, or are we all looking just to see how wrong he is and when he finally changes over? Is this like a train wreck? Are we just all drawn to watch and be like, oh, we must follow Capo? That's true. It must be what it is, because I'm following Capo specifically because of that. That's it. I'm done. I'm done. I'm not helping this bro's numbers anymore. It was fun watching the train wreck. He's now finally bullish. We're going to new all-time highs in every asset soon, ladies and gentlemen. And he still expects a bearish pullback. Like, what the fuck? So ridiculous. Anyways, what else is kind of fun? Just see if there's anything fun scrolling around in the Bitcoin Standard. Yeah, no, I guess that book is kind of old, outdated. XRP to $5. Let's see how that tweet does today. Well, for all of my friends that own XRP, I hope that it goes to $5 just for you. Yeah. Even though you don't like listening. I hope some thorough miracle allows that to happen and for you to get the fuck out of all of your positions in profit, major profits. I hope major profits find all of you. That's what I hope. Yep. It's a true story. Let's follow along. Avalanche here, looking super clean, right at the top. Oh, Avalanche is going to run to $80 here this week. No problem. All of the downside now is instantly recovered, with less buying. Again, look at the supply signature here. Look how much selling there was in the shakeout in the spring, and such limited movement to the downside. That's a huge amount of supply, very limited room to the downside. And even in this one here, all this selling, you can see down in the supply signature, all this selling couldn't even put us below the previous spring. Tested the bottom, jumped across the creek. Now, I thought this might be an SOS, or sorry, a final UTA, but it looks like we're in SOS and LPS phase now. This looks like SOS backup phase to me. In the final portions of the larger 6-hour SOS phase, we're just going to start screaming. Same thing with Solana here. It's basically as soon as we left this backup phase, which was approximately 14%, we went up 40-50% in the blink of an eye. So I think the exact same thing here is about to happen with Avalanche. We're basically going to go from right where we are today to $7 to $80, probably upwards of 120. So lots of room for upside growth in all of this. Could you cover SHIB? Oh, you wanted me to look at the chart. Look at Jim Cramer. Yeah, actually, Jim Cramer is a great example of how you can always be wrong, yet still somehow be popular. I need to learn how to be more popular with while still being right. Maybe there's a way to do both of these. Maybe you guys can help me. I've been right frequently, but I haven't been wrong enough to grow my following. What the fuck, 2020-24? 2020-24. What the fuck, 2020-24? That's what I have to say about that. Anyways, we've hit our hour mark with our live morning coffee today. We're going to do this again every day for the rest of the week. So remember to tune in live every day at, what was that? Like 9:30. I won't do it exact time because I have meetings in the morning. Sometimes we'll have to push that around because my business is also important. We might be headed to Dubai. It looks like, going to maybe do fund number 2 as we come to the close of, I guess, fund number 1 here on this bull market cycle. Been a lot of fun. So we'll probably be headed to Dubai to continue to do that second round, which would be a lot of fun. Yeah, and we're going to continue doing live stream coffee ranting morning updates. And then if I find data that I think is going to get kicked, although I've gotten really good at speaking about it now without getting kicked off the internet too. If I find data I feel might kick me off the internet, I'll be devoting my time specifically to Rumble only at that moment. But in the meantime, enjoy the bull market. Hope you've already found all your positions. May the money gods bless you. What's the money god's name? Choi Sun. May Choi Sun be in your favor today. Steal with the Arcane Bear, logging off for the rest of the day. Maybe if something random comes up, I'll just jump up and try to live stream again. A big shout out to Rumble, 400 live viewers. If you are on Rumble and live viewing, please subscribe to our Rumble channel. We will be live streaming via Rumble to all of our platforms every day this week, just to see how it goes. So thank you all for the support there. Awesome. Thank you all for the support. I can see the 120 live viewers on YouTube as well. You guys are awesome. I think all I got to do is click here and stream, and we are off. So I'm going to do that now. And boop, bye.